It's really weird with you here. Hi there, I'm Renelle Mason, and this is Ronnie Watches Movies. So I watched a video quite a while ago, and I don't remember whose video it was, but they were talking about the first Deadpool movie and how they were essentially trying to have their cake and eat it too by combining both comedy and tragedy into one movie, and expecting the audience to take the tragedy seriously when everything else was treated like a joke. This video really kind of got under my skin and made me stop and think about the Deadpool movies on a deeper level, and thus the idea for this video was born. Now, before we get into it, this is your reminder to like this video if you enjoy it, leave me a comment down below, and consider subscribing if you're into this kind of content. It's completely free and takes like 2 seconds, so what's that? Like the video! With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Now, like I said, this video that I watched made me really kind of stop and think about the Deadpool movies on a deeper level because I actually really like the Deadpool movies. And I realized that I disagreed with what this YouTuber was saying about them not being able to pull off both genres in the same film. But I realized that I only disagreed in regards to the first movie. What I realized is that all of the reasons that I thought the use of both comedy and tragedy worked together really well in the first movie weren't present in the second movie. So in this video, I've decided to take a closer look at the first Deadpool movie and how it juggles both comedy and its more serious aspects. Then I'll be comparing it to the second Deadpool movie where I think they really dropped the ball. My hair is driving me nuts. What, me saying that my hair is driving me nuts? Probably not. Now, if you watched my, oh, my hair. Oh, my hair. Okay. Now, if you watched my previous video where I defended the gray man, you would know that I have 2 questions that I ask in order to determine if the comedy in a movie is helping it or hindering it. If you haven't watched that video, then you should go and do that immediately after finishing this one. I'll try to figure out how to do that thing where it shows up at the end so that you can click on it and go there. If it's not there, just know that I tried and failed. There are probably tears involved. I'm a terrible editor. Anywho, obviously Deadpool is a little bit different because it is an actual comedy movie. However, just because a movie is a comedy doesn't mean that the comedy is good. So let's run the first Deadpool movie through my little questionnaire and see how it holds up. You good? So the first question we're going to ask is, does the comedy make sense? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this question because the simple answer is yes. It is a comedy movie, and by default, the comedy makes sense. It also makes sense for our main character of Wade Wilson. He's extremely sarcastic and uses his sense of humor to protect himself and others from the hard realities of his life. I actually really love the complexities of this character, his sense of humor, and how he uses it to cope. I also really love Ryan Reynolds' portrayal of him and the depth that he brought to the character. The second question we're going to ask is the one that I feel is more pertinent to this video, and that is, how does the humor interact with the more serious aspects of the film? Now, this is where I felt that the first Deadpool movie really excelled. It was absolutely hilarious and was such a fun ride, but it still had some dark territory to venture into, specifically Wade's battle with cancer and where that led. What I think was so crucial to how this movie balanced these competing themes was how Wade would make jokes about his situation, but the movie never turned his situation into a joke. Let me explain. Like a lot of people, Wade uses his sense of humor as a defense mechanism. We see this in the scene where he is trying to leave Vanessa to save her from watching him go through cancer, and we also see it when he is in the lab where he gets turned into Deadpool. What's important is that the movie never treats these situations like they're funny. When Wade is trying to leave Vanessa, he's trying to keep things light and make jokes, but we as the audience are still able to feel the emotion in this scene. We know that humor is an important part of their chemistry, and their use of humor in this scene makes perfect sense for their characters and their relationship, while still maintaining the integrity of the seriously difficult and heartbreaking situation that they're in.
I swear to God, I will find you in the next life, and I'm gonna boombox Careless Whisper outside your window. Wham!
Similarly, when Wade is being kept at the lab, he is consistently making jokes and trying to provoke Francis.
Something in your teeth. A little nugget of romaine lettuce or something.
But the film also makes sure that this situation is never made out to be a joke. We see genuine fear in Wade's eyes when he's locked into the oxygen deprivation chamber, and the scene where his friend is talking about wanting to make banana pancakes for his kids one more time is absolutely heartbreaking.
Making banana pancakes for my kids.
Again, Wade makes jokes about his situation, but his situation is never made out to be the joke. So all in all, I think the comedy and the tragedy in this Deadpool movie were able to interact with each other really well. The movie was able to be really funny without disrespecting its more serious moments. The same, however, cannot be said for the second Deadpool movie, I Fear, so let's take a look at it. Obviously, I still think that the comedy in the second Deadpool movie makes sense. We're dealing with the same characters. It's still a comedy movie. But where I think the second Deadpool movie really missed the mark was the way in which the comedy and the tragedy interacted with each other. Well, the first movie made sure that its serious topics were able to be taken seriously, even when the characters themselves were making jokes about it. The second movie throws all respect for its serious moments out the window. Nothing is sacred, everything is a big joke, and you, the audience, will be pointed and laughed at for taking any of it seriously. So I'm going to be taking a look at two scenes that I consider to be the worst offenders, and they both happen very early on in the movie. First one being the opening credits scene. Now, the opening credits for the first movie famously replaced the credits with things like calling Ryan Reynolds God's perfect idiot, and it was hilarious. But the second movie took the same idea and butchered it by opening the movie with something that would shock the audience, and then taking the opening credits scene to just list out everything that the audience would be thinking in response. And while it was admittedly funny to be called out by having exactly what you were thinking showing up on the screen in front of you, it completely undercut the severity of what just shocked you. Vanessa's death is meant to be the emotional catalyst for this movie, but it's pretty hard to feel emotional about it for more than 30 seconds when the movie then turns around and goes, "Ha! Gotcha!" This is a perfect example of the comedy and tragedy in a movie interacting poorly. Another perfect example is the scene where Wade is grieving at the bar. While it would be perfectly acceptable for Wade to be making jokes about his situation while grieving, humor is his coping mechanism after all. What is unacceptable, in my opinion, is how the movie instead turns his grief into the joke. He's not making jokes about his grief is the joke. And once again, this scene is funny, but it also completely ruins any kind of emotional reaction or sympathy that we have for Wade. If we compare the scene where Wade is trying to leave Vanessa in the first movie to the scene where he is grieving her death in the second, we can clearly see a difference in how the blending of comedy and tragedy were handled in both movies. The first scene was funny, but also heartbreaking at the same time because it makes sense for these characters to behave this way. The second scene does not make sense. No human would behave this way after losing the love of their life. I don't care how sarcastic you are. Once again, Wade is not making any jokes about his grief. His grief just is the joke. That's it. It's like, hey, look at this guy who just lost his girlfriend and is so devastated that he's pissing himself on a bar stool. Isn't that funny? No, it's not. The emotional core of this movie is not taken seriously. Now, I enjoy the second Deadpool movie. I think it's really funny and it has a lot of gold moments in it. However, it is clear to me that the writers, directors, actors, whoever's to blame, did not care about preserving the integrity of this movie's darker, more emotional aspects. So anyway, that's all I've got for today. This is another reminder to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm actually up to 7 subscribers now, which is pretty exciting, and I'm pretty sure I only know like 5 of them personally. So I'm pretty stoked that I've managed to convince 2 complete strangers that I have some interesting things to say. Correction, I'm actually up to 8 subscribers now. And one of the ones that I thought I didn't know personally turned out to be my friend's fiance, who she forced to watch my videos and then subscribed on his behalf. So I've only convinced one stranger that I have anything interesting to say, but it's fine. I'm almost up to double digits, which I'm really excited about. So a special thank you to anyone who has subscribed. Friends, family, strangers. It really means so much to me, so thank you. Anywho, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Insert end screen with that link to my Gray Man video here.